Hi, this is Gail, the Legacy Lady, and this is episode 6 of the Legacy podcast that never gets edited, by the way, yet. Um, Tonight is a little bit of a why. So I've spent a couple episodes of telling you how and what you can do and how to work with someone in your life to tell their life story. And tonight I wanted to spend a little bit of time on why I think it's important, why I'm doing this, and where it connects with my personal story. So I hope that you enjoy this little story of mine, and I look forward to talking with you about your story. So, why I'm dedicating myself to this idea of telling other people's stories. It really comes out of a grief story, and it comes out of my personal grief story, and the whole of Legacy, the Legacy Recorder, the idea of it, the how I've executed and how I've built everything comes from a personal grief story of my father passing away when I was, I think I just turned 18. And my daughter was also born right before he died. And so it was very much of a beautiful thing happening right as a really awful, horrible thing was happening. And at the time, I didn't have the tools I needed to deal with that. This grief of my father passing away and this grief of having a child so young and the things that meant for my life and ultimately my family's life and eventually my daughter's life and just how all of those pieces fit together. My adolescent brain could not handle it. So it went on lockdown. I just went into survival mode. And then later when things sort of, at some point after you lock those feelings down, you have to deal with them at some point. So working on Legacy and figuring out how Legacy worked and building all of these pieces and really doing the world building of it was my grief journey. It's how I processed the things that happened. It's how I reconciled myself to different things and forgave myself for things and forgave my dad for things and just a whole litany of stuff. And I could spend all night talking about it. So I think it's really important to know that Legacy Recorder is really rooted and stems from my personal grief story. So when I talk about it, and if I comment or we have an interaction, I really actually do know where you're coming from. I get it. So yeah, the other part of this personal story with where Legacy came from is watching family members and people around me experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's and memory loss, and recognizing that if we didn't act and if we didn't move fast enough, that their personal memories and their personal stories would be gone. So I've dedicated what I'm doing to helping people as fast as I can help people write their stories down, which is why the methods I've created are so simple, so easy to use. And it's really why I created Legacy the way I did, because I wanted it to be accessible to everyone. I wanted everyone to be able to use it without feeling like they had to have lots of experience or a degree or having, been a journalist or already an established writer. So Legacy is really built for everyone. Experienced writers will be able to use it. They'll be able to write stories, and people who have never written before in their life and are terrified of writing will also be able to use it. Hi, Seth. So that's those are two of the main reasons of why I started creating Legacy, is my personal grief story and then watching people with Alzheimer's. The other thing that the catalyst that happened was being around people that were feeling they had regrets, also watching people or having the knowledge that people around me were alone in care facilities, and I was out in the community and could see that there was this need for companionship, and I thought, well, I'll go and I had this idea that I would go help people write letters. And whether or not the letters got read by anyone at all, it didn't matter to me. Just that that person was able to write the letter down. And a wonderful woman named Lori Webb actually pointed out that, hey, we could do something with this, and we could create something that would meet some of my needs and financially, and would still be able to help people and would still help them tell their life stories and be meaningful and wonderful. And so shout out, Lori. Thank you. I will definitely be tagging you in this. So that happened in October of 2015, I think, is when that conversation happened. So I'm almost 3 years into this, and it's been a really amazing way to process my personal grief. And so with this whole idea of writing our stories down, and for me, it's very cathartic. It's a great process to go through and actually write out what's going on. And it's not bullet journaling. It's not it's not stream of consciousness journaling. You can definitely use it to journal and have structure with what you're writing about. But my suggestion usually and recommendation is that it's used to a little more than catalog, but it's taking those amazing scrapbook pages that you put together. And I know many, many people really enjoy scrapbooking. And this is a way to add depth. And, we have these really great 3D embellishments. Hi, Brian. Great 3D embellishments for scrapbooking. And this gives you an opportunity to give another dimension to that scrapbook. So you can write the story behind what is going on that page. And that's an incredible way to use legacy in relationship to scrapbooking and with things like Shutterfly. And I'm going to do a whole episode just on the tools and different ways you can use legacy and using free stuff and using paid stuff and what all of that can look like. So why I think it's important for you to start working with people to tell their life stories is that you may only have right now. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of people who come to me and say, when they hear about legacy, that they wish they had known me a year ago, or they wish they had had legacy 10 years ago, or even just within weeks of them meeting me. And depending on where that person is in their grief, I never flat out say, well, we could still do this. I wait until they're ready to talk to me about it. And that gives them an opportunity to process their own grief in their own way. And then when they're ready, then we have a conversation. But recognizing that you might only have right now, and it's an easy, simple process, there's really no reason to wait. So using the time you have right now with the people you love is unbelievably important. I can't even come up with the words to tell you how important it is, because I have my own regrets of things I didn't ask and things I didn't say, and I don't have that opportunity anymore. So if you have that opportunity to have a conversation with your dad, go have that conversation with your dad. If you haven't talked to him in a really long time, reconnect. And I don't know all the pieces of your situation with each person in your life and what your relationships are, but if it's something that can be healed, if it's something that can be mended, then I wholeheartedly am behind mending those things, because I don't have that opportunity anymore. So, so why else is it important? Oh, okay. So there's a whole human dignity aspect to this. So when we sit down and we have a conversation with someone about their life story, it validates their experiences, and it validates their emotions. It validates their presence literally on the earth. When we ask them about themselves, when we ask them what their feelings were about things, how they feel about things now, did it impact their life? Did they have an opportunity to impact someone else's life? And this is regardless of whether or not society or ourselves perceive this person as a important historical figure. It doesn't matter if they went to the moon. It doesn't matter if they were president. It doesn't matter if they owned the corner store for 50 years. Or if they didn't do any of those things. Just the fact that they're here as a person, embodying a human body, that makes their story worthwhile. And it's regardless of what age they are, regardless of what their abilities are to actually tell their story. I'm going to say this in every episode. If you're working with someone to tell their story who has already experienced dementia, if they're already experiencing Alzheimer's, if they've already experienced memory loss, their experiences that they're having right now are absolutely and completely relevant because it's relevant to them. It's their human experience. And documenting that is really important. So if you have the opportunity to do that, that is something that you can give back in a way that no one else will be able to help them. And that's if you're related, if you're working with someone in a workplace, if you're caregiving, anyways, that's how I feel about that. I'm getting a little tongue-tied because I'm getting excited about it. And I wrote notes down, which is why I'm looking over here. The other thing that I've noticed when I'm working with people and we're working through the legacy recorder process, the person who is helping the storyteller, they experience changes in themselves in addition to the storyteller having their life impacted. So in every legacy project that I've conducted, every legacy project I've been a part of, every single person involved, from the people that are up here to the people that are here to the people who are right in the middle of it, every single person, they find something new about themselves. They find out something new about how they perceive the world. They change potentially how they view the world. They're able to go and start a conversation with someone where they weren't able to start the conversation, or they had been trying to figure out how to have the conversation. And so you have the opportunity to go use this legacy recorder process in your own home. You don't have to come to a project with me. You can absolutely do it on your own. And have that impact. You can have that change in your life and in your loved one's life. And I think that is so vitally important to how we're connecting with each other, how we're interacting with each other, and how we are valuing life, basically. I've watched people change their priorities. They've changed how they're spending their time. They've changed how they're spending their energy just by helping someone else tell their life story, because they're expanding their worldview, they're giving themselves an opportunity to experience new things. And I covered a lot of whys. I'm going to have to go back through and outline this again. So just to recap, this episode was talking about why is it important to help someone else tell their life story, and why I'm doing this. So the why I'm doing this comes out of a personal grief and personal experience with Alzheimer's, and then what I was noticing in my community, and then why it's important. I listed a ton of reasons why, but the human dignity component I think is really huge for quick flash highlight takeaways, and the changes that you'll see in your life and in the other person's life. And then giving an opportunity to a person to actually tell their story, regardless of what their life experiences were. So regardless if they're a celebrity or a historical figure, that every single person deserves to have the opportunity to tell their story. So if you have any questions about anything, feel free to put them in the comments. If you're interested in checking out more information about the Legacy Recorder, you can do that over at www.thelegacyrecorder.com. And if you have an interest in working with someone to tell their life story and you're ready to get going, please go to www.thelegacyrecorder.com/tell their story. Thank you and happy writing.